All right, guys, it's 2 days before the con in which I'm going to be vending here in my local small town. It's actually a Comic-Con, but I'm going to be bringing a bunch of Pokemon cards, and I wanted to show you guys exactly what my inventory is going to look like and talk through kind of my thought process, why I'm bringing the stuff that I am, and kind of my game plan in terms of what I hope to sell. So I have 2 full binders that I'm going to be bringing of singles. Most of these singles are $10 or less. And I just wanted to bring stuff that was cheap to a convention like this because I hope that a lot of kids walk by and they're like, Dad, I want this card, I want this card. And if it's $3, they might, you know, purchase it for their kid. That's what I'm hoping for. So in this binder, everything is $1 unless it has a sticker with a price on it. And it is separated a little bit. We've got some Pokemon celebrations. We've got some McDonald's Pokemon, and we have some Shining Fates shinies. So I'll just quickly go through, show you guys what we're looking at. We got some full arts, some gold cards, some character rares. We got some interesting stuff, you know, dispersed in between everything. We have lots of V's and V Maxes, all that jazz. And we've got a bunch of celebrations. You can tell why I stopped opening celebrations, because every single time I opened anything, it would be a freaking Cleffa. So celebrations was absolute shit set for me because I never opened anything cool. Although we did open a bunch of the Pikachus. So having a bunch of Pikachus will be nice. I feel like they're awesome cards. We also have some X and Y, some Sun and Moon, not a whole ton of it, but we do have some of it. Man, these Gold Star Greninjas are hard to get in mint condition. Jesus, I bought a bunch of them and they always had whitening or some sort of damage on them. Now we got to the McDonald's holos. I have a bunch of leftover McDonald's holos from the 25th anniversary. This is just extra from my complete set that I created. Very cool cards in general. And we have some Pokemon Go Ultra Rares. We also have, I think, a little bit of Japanese in this binder. Ooh, we have some more X and Y, some evolutions, reverses, and holos, and we have some more Pokemon Go. I opened a bit of that recently, so I just started adding stuff to the binder. And here is the Lost Abyss Ultra Rares that I pulled from that booster box, along with some more V's. Here are the shinies from Shining Fates. Interesting that the full art shinies are all cheaper, or mostly cheaper, than the baby shinies, which to me is weird. You would think the full arts would be more expensive, but they are cheaper. So yeah, we have a bunch of baby shinies from that shiny vault to sell, hopefully, to the people. Now we have the second binder. The second binder is mostly Japanese and Metazoo, which is interesting. We also have a little bit of vintage English. I don't think anyone in my town probably even knows what Metazoo is, let alone ever seen it before. So it'll be interesting for people to see Metazoo. I'm sure I'll get a bunch of questions about it and stuff, and we'll just see how it goes. But we have a bunch of Japanese here, all mostly Japanese Ultra Rares. We have some Tag Team Ultra Rares, all Ultra Rares, Character Rares, V cards, V Maxes, and now we get to the English vintage. So most of the vintage, there's not a lot of holos. Most of it is starters and evolutions and more popular Pokemon. All of it is pretty much near mint, light play to near mint, and I just wanted to have some of it in my binder because I think people would enjoy getting the nostalgia kick. Maybe want to buy, you know, a $4 Flareon or something like that would be cool. Got a bunch of that stuff. Got some Black Star promos that are in decent shape. I think I priced all of these out to either moderate play or light play, because maybe just moderate play. We have an Ancient Mew. It's got a crease on it, so that's why it's 15. Still collectible, man. Still looks good in a binder. We've got this nice Pichu reverse. And we have some more rares and holos from the vintage sets. And here's the Metazoo. So we have a bunch of holos from Metazoo. The 3 sets that I opened were Nightfall, Wilderness, and UFO. So we have holos from all of those sets. And then we have all these reverse holos as well from Metazoo. Most of them are $1 a piece, except for obviously the Mothman, just a little bit more. That's it for that binder. As you guys know, if you guys follow me, I buy a lot of singles from Japan, and a lot of the singles that come in just don't make the cut in terms of whether or not I want to grade them. So a lot of times I have to then try and sell them to recoup my money that I spent on them getting them from Japan. So we have a bunch of these that are going to be in the case with the graded cards, and it's just a bunch of mid-era holos, hard gold, soul silver, level X's, and primes and stuff. Just cards that just probably would get like between a 7 or an 8, maybe an 8.5 if I'm lucky. But a lot of times I like to be a bit more choosy and selective about the cards that I grade. I want to make sure that I can get some sort of premium. This card unfortunately showed up completely creased down the middle. And this card was a card that was a completely different card that showed up from Japan. Luckily I got a refund on that one though. So, but yeah, some cool, interesting vintage Japanese singles. Last but not least, we have the slabs. Most of the slabs are lower end. I would say probably like $200 or less, or $100 or less. But we do have a couple of them that eclipse the $200 mark. Got the beautiful Houndoom Sword and Shield 50, baby. Just gonna go through these quick for you. Got some of these awesome tag team promos. One of my favorites is this Espeon Deoxys, absolutely beautiful. The Vivid Voltage stamp card, alternate arts, couple alternate arts. Interesting gold card from Tag Team All-Stars, one of my favorite Charizards, and a vintage dark Espeon, beautiful. All right, we have some Pikachu promos. I haven't priced these ones out yet. Obviously, stained glass birds, some vintage holos, some more modern Charizards, more vintage holos, a Pogo Rainbow, a vintage English Ursaring, Japanese Glaceon, or sorry, English Glaceon VMAX. This card is quite expensive. This is probably a $500 to $700 card. Came in one of those awesome Japanese collection boxes, and I have 2 of them. These are the only 2 in pristine 10 of these cards. At least the last time I checked they were. And another beautiful Japanese promo, the Munch Pikachu, which is a several $100 card as well. Those are the highest end slabs that we'll have there. And then I think I have 5 of these. I probably won't put all 5 of these out, but who knows? Maybe I will. We have the beautiful Charmanders from the Pokeking set. Roxanne. We got Roxanne from Astral Radiance. And we have the Poncho Pikachu promo. Pokemon Center promo. That is what I'm going to have at the con this weekend. I'm really excited. Hopefully we can sell a bunch of those singles, maybe some graded cards. I'm hoping to kind of make enough money to cover that hotel cost when I go to Denver later this year. And man, I'm gonna have to buy more cards because I'm not gonna have a whole lot for Denver later if a lot of this stuff sells here at this con. So we'll see how it goes. I'll check back in with you guys and let you know what sold well and what didn't. It's officially the day before the convention. I'm super excited. I just grabbed some change from the supermarket. They probably thought I was going to a strip club tonight with the amount of ones that I had them grab for me, but I definitely wanted to be over-prepared, not under-prepared for people paying in cash, especially since I have a lot of lower-end items. And I'm at the place now where it's going to be held. I can go in and kind of check out where my table is, hoping to have a table kind of close to the door, but you know, I'm not picky. Wherever we are, we are. I was just thinking it'd be awesome if I had some sort of sign that kind of, you know, towered a little up that had a Pokemon thing on it or something so that people could take a look and see that there was a Pokemon vendor there in case we are like at the back and not toward the front. But let's go in and see where my table is. All right, well, that is the space. We saw the full inside, what it looks like. It's definitely smaller than a Collecticon or something like that. But we've got one table toward the back, by the back kind of loading door, kind of facing the opposite direction from the door itself. Kind of a tough spot for a table, but I was kind of late buying the table, so I'm not surprised that the rest of it filled up quickly. There's a lot of stuff there. So I did this one other year when I was a streamer, and I just came to kind of promote myself as a streamer. So I just set up a couple TVs, put my streams on there, just talk to people, introduce myself to people in the community. And it was really cool, but it was definitely a smaller operation. This time around, there are some people already setting up, and there's loads of comic books. Holy crap, there's so many comics. You could kind of see in the video I just took of the inside, but there's also a massive amount of like action figures, and it just looks like there's actually going to be a lot of comic card action figure related stuff this time, where before it was more like a craft arts sort of fair. There were comic books, which was like the focal point, but there was a lot of other weird stuff happening. We'll take some more video tomorrow, and then we'll do a recap after of sales and stuff, and we'll talk about how it went. Yeah.
What do you do?
Pokemon cards. Trading cards.
Do you live close by?
Yeah. Yeah, I live in Wake Forest here.
So do you like collect them, trade them, buy them?
Yep.
You have a card? I'm a comic book store.
Oh, cool.
And
you get asked all the time?
Yeah, I'm like, I have no idea about cards. I said, no,
Yeah.
I don't. I don't do cards. I don't. No, sorry, bye.
Yeah.
And I have people who want to sell me like their original decks. I haven't seen them, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, like they bring them boxes. Like, nope.
Yeah, I've got business cards in the car and
That'd
stuff.
be
I
awesome.
can. Yeah.
Drop it in, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The day is over. I just got back from vending at my first con, a local con here in my hometown. Probably 25, 30 vendors, not a whole lot going on. It was a Comic-Con, so there was a lot more comic books than there were Pokemon cards. And I think that went to my advantage because holy shit, I sold a ton of stuff. And I think it will be interesting for you guys to hear what stuff I sold. Like what was the primary sellers, I guess. So I brought a case of graded cards, which you guys saw, and then I brought 2 binders of raw stuff, mostly stuff that is $5 or less, and a lot of the bulk of Vs and VMAXs I just had for $1. I said if it's not marked in the binder, it's $1. I sold so much of those. Like the $1 Vs and the $1 VMAXs flew. Everything that was $5 or less in those single binders, if you see them now, it is like patchwork. There's just a card here and there. They got decimated. So many singles, Vs, VMAXs, some V full arts, stuff that was just $5 or less. It was crazy. And the craziest thing was mostly kids coming through, buying stuff that they liked. Surprisingly, didn't care if it was English or Japanese. A lot of people were buying Japanese if the card looked cool. And even a lot of times people were like, oh, he's got the Japanese stuff. Like it was some sort of niche stuff. It was insane. I'm over. I'll show you guys. We'll do the breakdown in a bit, but fat stacks of cash, baby. Jesus. All right. I'll try and come down from this absolute high. So The stuff $5 or less, I probably had a couple hundred cards, I would say, in the $5 or less range in those binders, and like I said, most of them sold out. I did have some vintage stuff, some not vintage stuff. A lot of people, age ranges from children to adults, mostly kids though, buying like the Vs and the VMAXs. And honestly, I gotta say, there was an age limit, basically, where if you got above a certain age, people cared about the vintage singles, but most of the kids that came by the booth didn't give a shit whether or not I had vintage. They thought it was cool when they hit it. Like when they hit it in the binder, they were like, oh, that's the really cool stuff. That's from 1999 or whatever. And so they did like the vintage stuff, but a lot of the stuff that sold to children were definitely the Vs and VMAXs, the stuff that was like $1. A lot of times the parents would come through and just say, you know, child, I have $10, pick out 10 cards for $1 and, you know, call it a day or whatever. And so many people said that my prices were awesome, which I agree. They were awesome. Okay. I priced really well, and I think that's why a lot of people came by to buy stuff. I didn't have any sealed stuff. It was all singles, and so many people in our town, we don't have a trading card store that sells Pokemon singles. Like, we have the Targets, we have a sports card store, we have stuff like that that sells sealed product, but we don't have a store here dedicated to TCGs that sells singles. So a lot of people were like, where's your store? Where's your store? Where's your store? And I'm like, I don't have one. I wish I had one, but I don't have one. Maybe someday. But a lot of people took business cards. A few people came by and said that they have big collections that they want to sell me. So hopefully they'll be reaching out. I was next to a comic book guy who had a comic book store about 30 minutes away. And he was like, hey, I have a lot of people that come in looking for Pokemon. I have a lot of people that come in to sell Pokemon cards. And now I have someone to send stuff to. He took my business card, you know, took down all my information. So hopefully he'll be pushing me clients. It was a great experience. Absolutely fantastic experience. And guys, even if it's a Comic-Con and most of the stuff is comics, those comics guys are bringing their kids, and their kids want Pokemon cards. Like, that is just how it is. So all of my bulk Vs and VMAXs did really well. Now let's talk about graded. I did sell some graded cards, probably like 5 graded cards out of the case. Most of them were $100 or less. I think the highest graded card that sold was $100, and a lot of like $35 to $50 graded cards sold, but that was only maybe 5 or 6 cards out of the entire case sold that were graded. Now let's talk about Metazoo. Nobody had a fucking clue what Metazoo was. Every time they hit it in the binder, they're like, this isn't Pokemon. I'm like, yeah, that's that Metazoo stuff. And they look at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? Nobody had any idea what Metazoo was. The kids didn't give a shit about Metazoo. I didn't sell a single Metazoo card. Not a single Metazoo card. There was one person who knew what Metazoo was. And he's like, yeah, I got some Metazoo cards. And then he just walked away. So, Metazoo definitely not a household name yet, and not very many people looking at it from the general public. Most people don't even know about it. There were some really interesting reactions to some of the cards in the case being $600 or more. Those were actually priced pretty fairly. But I didn't have anybody, I didn't have a single person who was rude. There was one person who was a Whatnot streamer, super cool guy, came through, bought some Evolution stuff. I forget what his handle was on Whatnot, I'm sorry. I think he followed me though, so I should be able to look it up. Super cool guy, came through. I gave him a bit of a deal because he said he was Whatnot. He was having an Evolution stream, so he bought a bunch of Evolution cards. But nobody really haggled me because I feel like my prices were probably good enough. Like at most cards being $1, I don't think you're really gonna haggle people. Nobody really haggled me. Some people were just like, keep the change. And it was an incredible experience. The only thing that I would say was kind of a pain in the ass is some of the children were a bit handsy. They weren't very careful with the binder. They were like folding binder pages over, and they were trying to grab cards out, and so some of the kids were a little handsy, but most of the kids were super polite and super awesome. They were, you know, you'd have 2 kids from 2 different families, you know, looking through a binder together. They'd be like, oh, can I flip the page now? I don't see anything that I want. And the kid would be like, yeah, go ahead, flip the page. Let's see what's next. It was just a great experience, man. So many kids still into Pokemon. Like, if people for some reason think that the only people collecting Pokemon are like 30s and plus, you're so fucking wrong. It's insane. You know, kids would just come up and be like, oh, I have that card. Isn't that so cool that we both have the card? It's like, yeah, that's awesome, man. It was just a really cool experience, and it was awesome. I went hoping that I would cover my trip to Denver, and I more than covered my trip. I probably more than double covered my trip to Denver. So let's go through some sales figures before I close out the video. I primarily took Venmo, PayPal, and cash. That was it. Really didn't have anyone complain about the fact that I wasn't taking a card. It seemed to go really well using the payment methods that I did use. Most people paid in cash. I walked away. $180 in sales in Venmo, $292 sales in PayPal. And in cash sales, I walked away with $702. I think that's $1,174 in sales, $1,174 in sales. I went there with $80 cash. So basically made $1,100 this weekend. The booth was 65 bucks. And it was crazy. The overall experience was freaking amazing. I sold a bunch of cards. I met a bunch of people, got a bunch of leads, and I would absolutely tell people that you should definitely try vending because it was just a blast.